Hey, there we are.
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for having a chat to me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Where are you located?
Adelaide, South Australia, mate, right in the middle. Well,
Brilliant.
the middle from left to right, but down the bottom. So
All right.
you're not coming to Adelaide, unfortunately, on this.
Yeah,
Maybe next time.
fingers crossed. I mean, this is a big deal for us. It's first time for TYKETTO, so we're hoping to sort of break the ice and make it a regular thing after that.
Yeah. So how did this tour come about? How active is the band lately? And what can you tell me about what's happening lately?
Well, obviously, we went through the COVID lull that everybody did, but I mean, TYKETTO has been back in one form or another since 2004. We're a small band, so it's not like we're playing year round, but we get out and do what we can. And we started picking up more and more momentum over the years. We do the Monsters of Rock cruise, I think every other year now. Um, and we've got a very strong base in Europe, which is where we're all based now.
Hmm.
And so, I tour the UK and Europe pretty much every year. And so after COVID, I had the retirement of my original drummer, Michael Clayton Arbini, and our guitarist, Chris Green. No beautiful thing, no drama. It's just
Hmm.
decided they didn't want to do the travel anymore. So I had to decide whether or not to keep it rolling. And with the two new members that we got in, we went back out last year for the first time, and the response was huge. We had better attendances than we've had in decades, and people are really excited about the band.
Hmm. Who tell us about these new people? Who are they? Where'd you find them?
Johnny D is on drums.
Hmm.
He still plays with Doro
Hmm.
Pesh,
Hmm.
and of course he was my drummer in Wasted. So we
Hmm.
met 40 years ago. So it's a big circle that's come around. And Harry Scott Elliott is on guitar, and he's the new lad. And we had met him when he was playing with Cheryl Kane, and just hit it off. He and Chris Green were very, very good buddies when we did a tour together. And that was Chris's recommendation for the guy to take his place. And that's worked out beautifully.
Excellent. How did it come about? I mean, you've got GLAMFEST here in Australia very soon. Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, Slaughter, Lynch Mob, Heat, Janet Gardner. That was a surprise. TYKETTO, Jet Boy, Sisters Doe, and a few more. It's going to be pretty crazy. How did that all come about? And you mentioned the Monsters of Rock cruise. How many of these other guys are you playing with on a regular basis? Do you hook up with these other bands very often?
Um, yeah, well, with the cruise, yes. But other than that, not so much. Most of the cruise bands are American. Um, they occasionally, extend their budgets to flying guys like us over. They've had Thunder on occasionally.
Yeah.
But it's, of course, a lot easier to corral all the US guys and get them down to Florida.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a high school reunion, but I don't see them as often as I'd like to, because it is. I mean, there's certain guys like Slaughter, Winger, Skid Row, TYKETTO, Danger Danger. We all know each other. We all
Yeah.
came out at
Yeah.
roughly the same time, and we crossed paths a lot back in the day. So there's a lot of long-standing friendships in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. Comparing now to back then, I know it's hard, but touring now compared to back then, is it easier for you? Is it harder? Is it more of a grind? Is it more, you're just older and you just take it as it comes a bit more? How is it? Com-
I'd say it's about 50-50. When I was younger, you just point me in the direction. You're playing there. You got to drive 12 hours. I was like, yeah, let's go. That doesn't happen anymore. If you tell me, you got to do 5 hours and be on at 3 in the afternoon, the answer is no. It's just like, I know what my physical limitations are. I'm 62 years old. I don't need to kill myself anymore.
yeah.
And I don't have that drive, like build that career, do anything to build that career. I'm here. I am what I am, and I'm very, very lucky and grateful that people still want to come out and hear me sing and see us play. Um, so touring, I think it's still exciting. I mean, obviously, we're very pumped up about coming to Australia. Not so excited about the flights. You know, it's just like how many movies can you watch in 25 hours? So that's the hard part is that it's such a shame to just be coming over for 3 shows, but I'm
Yeah.
in discussions with people about doing some solo acoustic stuff down there as well, and of course, if I do that, I can turn that into a little bit more of a visit, and spend more time, which with the acoustic shows that I do house concerts, solo acoustic shows, that's lovely for me because I can do that. For instance, I'll go once a year to America and I can see my family where they're scattered about. I've got friends all over the country. So it's really kind of a paid vacation. It pays for itself and I get to visit people. And again, at certain ages, those things become more and more important.
Hmm. What's one track when you're on stage with TYKETTO? What's one TYKETTO song you're always going to have to play?
Well,
Like,
Forever Young. Yeah, without question. There's a
yeah.
few. Yeah, there's a few that I think we've never not play Wings. We've never not play Forever Young. And even in a situation like this where I can't remember if we've got like a 45 or 50-minute set, it's usually unwise to, suddenly scale it down in such a short amount of time and play a ballad. But we
Mm,
got to play something alone. I mean, it's a song that
you
has
do have
traveled
to.
the world. Yeah, so and I'm hoping it'll be well received. It's like it's probably our most traveled song and
Mm,
the song that I've received the most mail, email,
mm,
really,
mm,
really deep, touching stuff from people. In fact, there was an Aussie guy that came up to me on the Monsters of Rock cruise. Enormous guy, like Jim Rat, just
mm.
covered in muscle, all that, and he's towering over me. He goes, I won't attempt the accent. He says, I gotta talk to you. He says, I need to tell you something.
Yeah.
And he said, I was gonna put a gun in my mouth until I heard Standing Alone. And he starts crying in front of all these people. He said, you saved my life. I'm here because of that song.
Mm.
That's important stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't take that on me like, oh, aren't I great? No, somebody used a piece of work that I did to help themselves. And that's just, you can't put price on that. You can't.
No, no, that's amazing. Yeah. That it doesn't surprise me with that song that people come out to you and say, that you've received the most emails and talk about it because it's just an amazing song. I was listening to it in the car today, and it gets you here, man.
Thank you. It's honest. It was written when I was feeling all of those things.
Yeah,
That song
yeah,
was written in about 15 minutes.
yeah,
Um, I think some of the best songs are written
yeah,
quickly,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, and it stood up.
yeah.
It kind of went past the corny power ballad era and all that, and just it's held its head up, and I'm really proud of that.
On that era, I'm glad you brought that up. With the time that you guys came out and when your albums came out and all that, and then with bloody grunge coming in and all that, do you ever say, "Oh, gee, if only we were a couple of years earlier"? Does that ever?
If I had a dime for every
Yeah,
time.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and who knows? Michael and I used to have that conversation a lot, and it's like, yeah, which one of us would have ended up wrapping his Corvette around a tree if we'd have been as successful as Whitesnake? Which one of us would have joined a cult and disappeared in transcendental meditation right in the middle of a tour? And you just don't know. There's so many ways it can go, and money does indeed change everything. Not very often not for the good.
Yeah.
So there's a little, you got to be honest. Like of course, there's a twinge of regret, where you think, oh, came so close. But on the other side, again, like I said, I'm still here. I'm still doing this,
Mm.
and people still want to hear it. So I did something right.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your acoustic shows. Any other projects you got on the go?
I do recording work for people here at home. I've got my little studio set up, and so I'll do vocals for people for their albums, for their demos, things like that. That comes and goes. With the acoustic stuff, I used to do a project called Snake Oil and Harmony, which was myself and Dan Reed touring together
Mm,
acoustic. We did that for several years, so I'd like to do that now, change partners and do that, throw somebody else in the mix. So I'm kind of looking around for that. But currently, I'm doing music composition at home, stuff for television and things like that. But no planned recorded releases for a little bit.
mm,
There's a lot of talk about my next solo album, which I have the songs ready for, but I think that has to be kind of put on the back burner because we're at a point where the record company really wants another TYKETTO album. So this
mm,
year we're going to start slowly grinding away at writing some new songs together with the new band.
mm. CDs, streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what's your take on that? I mean, I miss having the. I'm going to change something around if you don't mind. You
Sure.
mentioned you mentioned something before, and I have a piece of cardboard in my hand here, which I'm going to talk to you about.
I just had that out, as a matter of fact. Yeah, that's in good shape. That's the US release.
Yeah, I bought it basically on release. A friend of mine played the album to me, and I'm like, whoa. So I went out and bought it. Now, I'm not saying this just because I'm talking to you, because I've said this to many people before. Right, we're back. Right. Now, just before the break, I pulled this album out. This album, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you now, I've said this to many people. This is the finest melodic hard rock album ever released in the history of the world.
Well, all I can say is thank you for that. My first record.
Killer, man. The killer songs just keep coming. But one thing I wanted to find out about. This is on the notes on the back. Recorded at a studio in Europe to which no courtesies are extended.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Oh, that's our manager was a bit of a petty asshole, and so he demanded that get put on there. We recorded it at Mediterraneo Sound Studios in Ibiza,
Right.
which was owned by Judas Priest at the time. They'd done a couple of albums there, and the idea was to get first of all to get Pete and Paul as far away from drinking and drugs as they could
Yeah.
to get them to concentrate on the work. And it's really out, in the countryside in Ibiza. You have to drive like an hour or so to the other side of the island to get to the party side. Um, and I think it's an island, so they ran out of tape one day. Like, oh, that's it. We can't record anymore. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have enough tape, and then you have to wait because it comes over on the boat and things like that. So I think there were things like that and some managerial issues that he was pretty annoyed at the studio, so he refused to name it. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Singing to the Night, probably the only hard rock song where Sha La La works.
Well, that's very UFO, isn't it? I mean that's where I wanted to go with that. I'm a massive Phil Mogg UFO fan, and I thought it works, when you're playing
It
with these
does.
guys. And that song was one of the more mainstream songs for that album. I mean, you got to remember the reason that album happened. I mean, they were cruising along. They'd done 3 records with Finn
Mm.
Muir, and they were really good records. I mean, I really like Finn. I love his voice, and I had all the albums. I was a big fan. Where they came to Loggerheads was that they were with Music for Nations at the time, and they
Mm-hmm.
got a possibility of going over to Capital EMI and going back into the big leagues, as it were.
Mm.
And But capital EMI pretty much said, if you're going to do this, you got to remember this was 1985. So you had, Journey, you had Queensryche, you had Loverboy, they wanted Wasted to sound more mainstream. They felt that Finn was too harsh, too rough and ready, which is Pete's style. I mean, perfectly honest, Pete much preferred having Finn in the band to me. That's just the way it was. But the record company and the management's like, look, we have a chance to possibly move up a level, sell some records, make Pete some money, So when they found me, it was a singer that the record company kind of thought, yeah, this is much more in the vein of where we want to go. So we tried to write a few songs that went that way. I mean, stuff like Hell Comes Home and Fire Under the Wheels was straight, Wasted from the get-go. But yeah, and that song, as I recall, that's kind of lyrically a little bit of a tribute to Phil Lynott in there.
I can go with that. Being a fan of Finn as you were, as you mentioned, how did you feel redoing Heaven Tonight?
It was weird, but this is my big break. I was going to do whatever the boys said, point and shoot. So what we did was originally we took with Liam Sternberg, the guy who produced The Good, the Bad, and the Wasted previous album. Suddenly I'm in Abbey Road Studios. What's going on? And so for the record company, they said, we want to hear the new singer. So rather than put together a bunch of stuff that would take forever, they said, well, listen, we'll take Finn's tracks off of 3 or 4 songs and put Danny's voice on, and you can hear the difference. And the record company said, well, we got to re-release Heaven Tonight. It never got a global release. Music for Nation is one of the best record companies ever, but a smaller company. And of course, the big boys like to throw their weight around. So EMI was like, we can do this, we can do that. And they did. I mean, we were on the Billboard charts, and we had a couple of massive tours. But they insisted that Heaven Tonight be, the single. They felt it didn't get its day in the sun, and I agree. It's a wonderful song. I didn't write it. It's the only song on the album I didn't write. And it's again stood up the test of time. People still want to hear it.
Yeah, we had that playing on the background of our compilation wedding video tape, actually. So you got a gig there, because that's very important to my wife and I. So. Gee, we're running out of time now with that. Quickly, how did the Eagles gig come about? The Ultimate Eagles, how did that come about?
Like a lot of things, friend of a friend, kind of similar to Wasted in a way. Somebody just dropped out, and my name happened to be, very high in their phone book. And, it was just at a time when I wasn't doing a lot, and I thought, well, I love the Eagles music. So the challenge out there and singing it, and also they were jazzed because having an American as your front man kind of adds a little gravitas to the whole thing, especially when I'm conversing with the audience. I can put on a little something if I need to,
Because you came here to Adelaide, and I knew about the gig, but I didn't go. I didn't know you were in the band. And a friend of mine live streamed to Facebook, and she wrote Danny Vaughn. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? If I'd known, I would have come and I would have shoved this album in your face and got you to autograph right on there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to.
Hey, we're just about out of time. Can I get you to do one thing? And that is, can you give us the horns up in the camera, please?
Yeah, here.
Right up in the camera, nice and smile. Nice. There we go. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Because it's important to be heavy metal about it.
I'm with you.
Right. Hey, good luck here in Australia on the GLAMFEST tour with all the other bands, Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney. Good luck on the long flight here and the long flight home. Hopefully we see more of you next time.
Yeah, we got to try and see if we can make this a regular thing. So it's exciting.
Hey, thanks for having a chat, man. You take care.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Anytime. Take care, man.
All right. Take care. All the best.